Hey everybody, this is Tracy here for another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we're here to recap This Is Us Season 1, Episode 14, which was titled I Call Marriage. So this episode opens up with Jake and Rebecca leaving City Hall after they have tied the knot, and Miguel gives a touching best man speech at the reception that followed and looked like it may have been at that bar that they like to go to all the time. It didn't really look like a event hall or anything. So years later, and the kids are now teenagers, and Jake and Rebecca have dinner with Miguel and Shelly, and it's pretty tense. And Miguel and Shelly announce to their friends that they are getting a divorce, and it really takes Jake by surprise, although Rebecca seemed to have seen it coming all along. Back at home, Jake expresses that he thinks that divorce is a cop-out and couples should make it work until death do them part. And in the present, we are at Randall's, and Annie, which is the youngest daughter, she comes into their bedroom to let them know that she wet herself and that she had wet the bed. And so when they go to get her cleaned up, they realize that the oldest daughter is not in her bed, and they find her downstairs with William, and he's teaching her how to play chess. So Randall is upset and tells her that she needs to go to bed, and it turns out that she entered the I don't know if they have like a chess team at her school, but there's a tournament that's coming up, and she entered it, and she had posted it on this board that they have in the kitchen, you know, that keeps up with what everybody is up to. And I guess Randall, you know, he's been so stressed out over William that he didn't realize that she was doing this. So the daughter is basically, you know, she doesn't want to go to bed, and she tells Randall and Beth that, you know, she wants to spend as much time with William as she can, you know, because he's not going to be around forever. And so after they go upstairs to bed, William talks to Randall, and he basically tells him that, you know, his daughter is right when she says that he won't be there forever. But it's obvious that Randall is having a hard time dealing with the fact that William's time is, you know, coming to an end. So Randall and Beth meet with someone who I am assuming was like a hospice worker, you know, people that come in and help you deal with the end of life issues and emotions that you may be feeling. And so Randall, you know, he's still very irritable, and to be honest, he was downright rude towards the guy. And he makes a hasty exit and says that he has a meeting at work regarding the account that he's trying to get. So over at the office, he learns that Sanjay is moving closer and closer to bumping him out of the way. He's made arrangements to meet with the client for dinner, forcing Randall to decide between going to the dinner and missing his daughter's chess match. And so I guess the realization that William would die soon is setting in, and Randall, you know, and this is what has Randall so on edge, and like it may be days now because he is just, you know, really angry and all over the place. Then it moves on to Kevin, and he goes into this restaurant, and there's this couple sitting at a booth, and so he's telling the people that he wants them to move. And I think it was so funny because the lady was Marla Gibbs, who played the maid on the old sitcom The Jeffersons, and the guy she's married to, he's a white guy, but his name is George. And if you're familiar with that show, George was Marla's boss. His name was George Jefferson. So Kevin is trying to get the couple to move from the table because he's invited Sophie to meet him there, and then he tells them this story about how they were sitting at that table on the day that he proposed to her, and you know, this was their favorite restaurant. So Marla Gibbs is like looking at him like, are you crazy? But then she realizes that he's the Manny and asks for an autograph, and when he gives her the autograph, you know, she goes ahead and gets up and they move. So Sophie arrives at the restaurant, and you know, she's in a bad mood just like Randall. So everybody's just angry on this episode. And so we learned that the reason her and Kevin's marriage ended was because he cheated on her. And I guess they weren't married very long. Like, did she say they were married for 12 years or that it was 12 years ago? I need to go back and check that, because if it was 12 years ago, then they had a very short marriage. We move on to Kate, and she's at the camp, and they're out on a nature walk when Toby sends her a text message, and I think he says that she has a delivery or something, and then one of the text messages was a picture of him, which seems to have brought a smile to her face. And so when she gets back to the camp, like that room where they have the exercise classes, he shows up and he wants Kate to check out of the camp and go into town with him. You know, he's reserved a hotel room and he wants to make love to her. You know, and I'm just thinking, poor Toby, he's just so lost and out of place, because remember, he doesn't live in New York, and he, you know, took time out to come down there to spend Christmas with her, had the heart attack or whatever it was, and, you know, now she's at the camp and he's stuck in New York for the next 2 weeks, you know, recuperating, and he's all alone while Kate is at this camp. And so, you know, Kate says that she can't leave because she has classes coming up. And so then Toby, you know, he's like, oh, well, I'm sorry. And then, you know, once he starts feeling bad, then she's like, oh, no, but I'll do it. I'll go with you. But then he says, no, he understands that it's really important, and that, you know, he'll just leave, and he understands. And then he kind of like, you know, just tells her, you know, that he's lonely. As Toby is leaving, you know, he stopped by Duke, the guy who likes Kate, that works with the horses. And so when he learns that Toby is Kate's fiance, he makes a comment that raises Toby's eyebrow and lets him know that something might be going on. But then when Toby's like, what did you say? Then Duke was like, oh, I was just joking. You know, we're good. Kate's a really nice lady. So then we move back into a scene from the past, and Jack goes in to talk to Miguel. And when he gets into Miguel's office, Miguel is in there. He's kind of like flirting with a female co-worker. And so Jack just comes out and asks him, you know, is he having an affair with this woman? And Miguel is like, no, he's not. And he tells Jack that his marriage ended because they simply grew apart. And Jack is like, you know, what does that mean? What does growing apart? You know, how do you grow apart from your spouse? And then Miguel, you know, he goes into this story about how he gets up every morning at 6:30, and that Shelly's day can't start without a cup of coffee. So once he gets up, you know, he makes her a cup of coffee, and, you know, how their morning routine goes. And then he says that, you know, after years of doing that, he woke up one day and he didn't want to make Shelly any coffee, so he didn't, and that Shelly didn't seem to notice that he didn't make the coffee. And so he's just basically saying that sometimes you just get in a rut and you get in a routine and you don't realize that you've actually fallen out of love with the person, and that he feels that, you know, this is the best thing and it shouldn't bother Jack, and, you know, they both agreed and are okay with it. So then the scene moves on to Rebecca, and she's in a jazz club singing My Funny Valentine. And then this kind of gets sketchy for me, because I started watching This Is Us late, and I was actually watching it on the app, you know, at nighttime, and sometimes I would just fall asleep. So I'm thinking when they first introduced that Rebecca was a singer was one of those episodes where I had been snoozed off and totally missed that part of it. So she sings with a guy named Ben, and I think her and Ben may have had a relationship before or something, and I kind of picked that up in the previews for next week, so I'm not going to go too much into that because I'm not sure. And so he tells her that they've been extended an invitation to do a tour along the East Coast. And so Rebecca says that she has to check with Jack to make sure that it's okay. And then Ben responds and says that, you know, if Jack really loves Rebecca, then he will want her to pursue her dream and be happy and let her go on this trip. And that did not sit very well with Rebecca, because then she went on to tell Ben what a wonderful guy Jack is, and how, you know, he's just been so accommodating. He works like 12-hour shifts, but when she wants to, you know, go to rehearsal and go sing at this club, you know, he does everything, you know, make sure the kids are fed, make sure the house is clean. He does everything, so don't ever question Jack's love for her. And I was like, go ahead on, Miss Rebecca, stand by your man. Don't let nobody put down your marriage or your husband. So we move back into the present, and Beth is talking to the girls about doing a memory book. And I guess it's basically like a photo album that you put together full of things about the person, who's about to pass away. In this case is William. And so Randall walks in and he goes off again, and he doesn't want to accept that William is dying. And when he tells Beth, that he has to miss the chess match later on that night, Beth pumps the brakes and she's like, no, I call marriage. This is one of those moments when work has to wait, and you will be going to see the daughter play chess. So I don't know how that's going to work out for Randall, because, he's really hard pressed about this job and getting this account. So Toby, isn't playing with the Duke guy, because when we go back to that camp, he's in the room with Kate doing the exercise class. And I think it was the Tai Chi class. That's probably not Tai Chi, but where they're, with the sticks and everything. And so we learned that Kate really isn't happy about Toby showing up unannounced or joining in the class with her. And so he tells her, that she's really selfish, which she is. And he tells her, how lonely he is in New York, and how he went to see the doctor, and the doctor says that he isn't healing well, which means that he may have to stay a little while longer. And then he looks down on the ground, and when he had arrived earlier, he had brought this duffel bag, which I guess was full of clothes and stuff for her to change into when they went into town for this night at the hotel that didn't happen. And he's kind of upset that it was still sitting on the floor. So he walks over and he pulls out a box, and then he tells her, by the way, I was going to give you this tonight while we were out, but here, take it. And so he also mentioned about meeting Duke and how, he didn't like Duke. And so he storms out, and then Kate opens the box, and it's the his grandmother's wedding ring. And so she still doesn't seem happy. She seems agitated and bothered by, the fact that he showed up. So I don't know if this is going to bode well for the future of Kate and Toby. After Toby left Kate at the camp, we have a little scene with Kate and the guy Duke. And so he's basically, still trying to come on her, being disrespectful of Toby. And he tells Kate that his offer still stands and that he's in room number 13. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, Kate, please do not go and have sex with this man. Please don't do it. Then we move on to Kevin, and he and Sophie are on a stalled subway train. And so Kevin is sitting away from her, but then he turns around and he notices that she seems, upset. So he gets up and he goes over and he asks the person that's sitting next to her if it was okay if they change seats. So as he sits down, he's trying to comfort her and let her know that, not to panic, that the train is going to start again real soon. So she softens up a little bit and starts asking him, how's Kate? How's his mom? How's Miguel? And, how's everybody doing? And then Kevin turns around and asks her, how is her mom doing? Because she has MS. And then Sophie's like, well, how do you know my mom has MS? So then Kevin has to confess and say that he found out on Facebook. And then she was like, well, how did you find out on Facebook? And he tells her that, he's pretty much been catfishing her on Facebook. And she's like, what do you mean? Like, we're not friends. And then he says it was some like Asian name, like Su Young Moon or something like that. And he says, that's me. And she can't believe, that he has been faking to be somebody else on her Facebook page. And I guess they've been interacting and everything. So when the train starts up again, she's upset now, and she gets up and she runs off the train. But Kevin goes after her, and he stops her, and he's basically telling her that, he really loves her and how much he cared about her, and, how he can't remember what she wore the first day of their 4th grade school year, and that he's, been in love with her ever since then. And so Sophie tells him that, it's pretty much too late for them, that, she went through a lot getting over the breakup of their marriage, and now she has met another guy, and she likes this guy, and she really wants to give it a chance. So after Kevin listens to her talk about, this new guy in her life, he basically tells her that he still loves her and that he'll be back at their restaurant tomorrow morning, and he'll be sitting at their favorite booth, and if she wants to give it a try, then she'll show up, and he's just going to leave it at that. So at the chess tournament later on that night, Randall does show up, and it's going on longer than he thinks because his daughter's really good, and she makes it to the final round and eventually wins the tournament. So Randall, turns to Beth and asks Beth if he made a mistake by bringing William into their lives, and she lets him know that he did make a mistake and it probably was the best thing that could have ever happened. The following day, Randall goes into work, and Sanjay is having a meeting with one of his clients, and he, is trying to get into the conference room, but Sanjay won't let him come in. And then the manager walks up and tells Randall that he wants to talk to him. And so when they get into his office, he lets Randall know that he has decided to split half of his accounts with Sanjay. And of course, Randall feels like this is a demotion, but the manager is telling him that it's not. He just thinks that Randall, is like an overachiever and he's doing too much. And then I guess everything with William going on, that he really just wants to give him some free time and let him relax a little bit. But I think I would be on Randall's team as well, thinking that this is more of a demotion and not a is everything okay with you. So we move back into the past, and Jake has arranged for a sitter to take the kids while him and Rebecca go away on an impromptu trip. Going back to when the show first opened up and Miguel was doing the toast, as he was talking, about marriage and what they can expect, there was like a lot of back and forth, with Rebecca and Jack, I guess like during their first year of marriage. And so in one of the scenes, they're having sex in the bathtub, and Rebecca puts her foot up on the soap dish, and the soap dish breaks off of the wall. So back to this scene here where he's taking her back to that first apartment, and he has these Christmas lights all over the place, like all throughout the entire apartment, which is vacant. So he's taking her, on a tour of the apartment, they're walking through, and then when they get to the bathroom, they decide that they want to make love in the bathtub again and see if they can break the soap dish off the wall again, because, of course, over time it has been put back up. So after they finish making love, they're sitting on the floor, and Jack gives Rebecca a copy of their wedding vows. And I thought that was just so sweet, and it just makes us love Jack that much more. He is like the perfect man, and I'm sure he is disrupting a lot of marriages from people looking at this show and realizing that their husbands don't measure up to how perfect Jack is. So as they are reading the vows, we have a lot of back and forth with the kids in the present. Beth is with the girls because Randall has not come home from work yet. And then we have Sophie, and she's showing up at the restaurant to meet with Kevin. Then we move on to Kate, and looks like she is about to go over to Duke's cabin. And I just really wish she would change her mind before she gets there. And then finally we have Randall, and he comes in, and Beth is already gone to bed. And there's a glass of water on the nightstand. He goes to pick the glass up, but he's like really shaking really bad and can't drink the water, because he's so nervous. And the show ends with, them having this romantic moment, and Rebecca letting Jack know that she is going on tour with the band. And so I don't like the Duke guy at all, and I really wish he would leave Kate alone. So what do you guys think? Do you think she's going to slip up and go ahead and sleep with this guy? And do you think that Rebecca going on the tour is going to be like a catalyst for whatever happens to Jake at the end of the season? Leave your comments below, rate the video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until next time, check out some of my other reviews. I do several shows, and I will get with you guys later. Bye-bye.